Welcome back to the podcast. Today we are diving deep into the magical process that keeps our world alive, photosynthesis. To understand this process, we have to start way back in history. For centuries, people wondered where plants got their mass. Did it all come from the soil? In 1648, a scientist named Jan van Helmont had a groundbreaking idea. He showed that a plant's growth came mainly from water that it had absorbed. Water. Now, it took over 100 years for another essential piece of the puzzle to fall into place. In 1804, Nicolas Theodore de Saussure proved that water wasn't just absorbed. It was an essential reactant of photosynthesis. This I found in an article written by Sturbet written in 2019. And a final piece of history for this segment, the discovery of what plants give off. In 1771, Joseph Priestley performed his famous experiment showing that a plant could produce oxygen. That's the air we breathe. So we've established the inputs, water and ladder, carbon dioxide. But what about the power source? The true chemical nature of this energy transfer was pinned down back in 1845. Robert Meyer, working with Joule, developed the law of conservation of energy. They pointed out that the energy a plant takes up as sunlight is actually stored as chemical energy in the form of sugar. And finally, what's the plant's solar panel? It took until the 20th century, but that essential green pigment was classified as the famous chlorophyll. Now that we've covered the basics, let's talk about the incredible environmental impact of this process. Now that we've covered the basics of how the engine works, let's talk about the mind-blowing origins of the factory itself. We're talking about the tiny solar power plants inside the leaf cells called chloroplasts. Scientists believe these structures weren't always part of the plant. Think of it like a prehistoric acquisition. This is the concept of endosymbiosis. Essentially, an early organism, a single-celled life form, swallowed a cyanobacterium. This was a type of photosynthetic bacteria, but instead of digesting it, the host organism kept it alive. That swallowed bacteria eventually evolved into the chloroplast, and that single event gave rise to all green algae and plants as we know them. It was the ultimate world-changing environmental power-up. At its core, photosynthesis is a complex chemical dance, specifically an oxidation-reduction reaction where electrons are constantly being moved around inside the plant. But what does this mean for us? This process is the ultimate engine of life on Earth, operating in a perfect cycle with humans and animals. Plants create the oxygen that we need to breathe, and in return, we breathe out the carbon dioxide that the plants use as one of their primary ingredients. It's a perfect planet-sized exchange system. In fact, the chemical machinery for taking carbon dioxide and burning it into organic material, that process appears to be even older than photosynthesis itself. Talk about an ancient chemical necessity. Let's wrap up by talking about energy transfer, or thermodynamics. Photosynthesis is one of the most powerful examples of energy conversion on the planet. Plants and bacteria capture solar energy and package it up, storing it as chemical energy in the molecular bonds. When we burn wood or plant products, we are simply releasing that stored solar energy back into the atmosphere. And when we eat food, whether it's vegetable directly from the garden or meat from an animal that ate plants, we are using that original captured sunlight to fuel our own bodies. Even fossil fuels, like coal and petroleum, are just ancient, super-compressed packages of solar energy captured by plants and animals millions of years ago. So here is the final recap of this incredible life-giving process. Green plants continually replenish the oxygen in our atmosphere by doing this. They take in carbon dioxide and water, add light energy, and they create a sugar called glucose, and oxygen and water as byproducts. It's a simple equation for the most complicated, vital, and beautiful chemical reaction on Earth. Thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast. Talk to you later.